Good day and welcome to another segment of In the Spotlight. I'm Superintendent Michael Richard, and today I'm very pleased to be joined by Mr. Kirk Jonah. And Kirk's joining us as a member of the CARE Coalition and a resident here of West Springfield. But Kirk, why don't we start off, tell the folks at home a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, where you went to school, and maybe what brings you here today.
Sure. Well, good morning, and thank you for having me. I appreciate it. So I'm a West Springfield guy. My dad was a World War II and Korean War veteran, and we started in Birch Park Circle. And Birch Park Circle was a housing for veterans and their families. And I was a young individual there with my two brothers and my family, and it was a great community. I remember quite a bit of it. And a lot of folks from Birch Park have done a lot with this town and grown and prospered in this town. We moved to Piper Road, and we had a home there. And from there, I came to West Springfield High School and played sports here and did other things. And then from there, I went to Cushing Academy. I did a postgraduate year, primarily for football. And then from there, I went to Ithaca College and got my bachelor's degree with a major in management, marketing economics, and in marketing, minors in marketing economics. And then from there, I went to Western New England College at Knights and got my MBA with a concentration in finance. And currently, I work at Holyoke Gas and Electric. I'm Director of Telecommunications and Information Technology. And I'm here, part of the CARE Coalition, as well as a father who been through this opioid crisis, and I kind of wish to share that story with you as we go along today.
For sure. So you've recently been added as a steering committee member
Yes.
for the CARE Coalition.
Yep.
Tell me, well, let's get right into it, I guess. Tell me about your interest. Let's talk about Jack and why you're so invested now in prevention and care around the opioid crisis.
Yeah. So Jack, I'll tell you a little bit about him later on. Was a quite an incredible young man. And we lost him on April 6, 2016 we found him in his bedroom with a needle in his arm, and he overdosed from a heroin overdose. The CARE Coalition, one of their mission statements is to educate our young adults, our community on the opioid crisis. And that's very near and dear to my family's heart. And so I find it I'm very encouraged to be asked to be part of this coalition, because we need to get in front of these kids. We need to educate them, and we need to foster conversation around the opioid crisis. So part of the CARE Coalition, that's one of their mission statements. And I'm very, very interested in that and helping support that.
Good. So let's talk about maybe National Drug and Alcohol Facts Week.
Yep.
That's coming up next week, and you've got some speaking engagements here at the high school and in the middle school. And tell me a little bit about what students might expect and what families can expect for the day program and evening program.
Okay. So the whole speaking engagements kind of has just evolved over time with individuals asking me to speak. And so what I'm going to do is I'd like to share our family story and the impact it had on our family, with the hopes and goal of educating the community and the young adults so that we can prevent another life of a young individual like our son Jack being taken again from this opioid crisis. So I'm going to do that. The second thing I'd like to do is I like to talk about what's happened is, as I've been doing these discussions, many people come to me and share their stories with me, whether it's their own personal story of addiction, whether it's a family member, something, or a peer, a friend. And so I'd like to share one or two of those stories, and I don't say names. And what I want to do is I want to take, Jack didn't just one day say, I'm going to put a needle in my arm. There's a process to get there. They start somewhere, and it works its way with the brain being taken over to finally to a point where Jack did what he did in his bedroom. My goal is to take these kids, these young adults in the community, through a path of an addict from the get-go, from the decision they made here, the bad decision that was made here that got them to here. And what I do is I try to invite the audience into this journey. And it's very, very eye-opening. And so that's another piece that I try to do to bring them into the journey of an addict and the decisions they make and the things that they did along the path. The other things I try to do is talk about decision-making process, making the right decisions today, because what's out there today, you don't have the opportunity to make a bad decision. You make a bad decision, it is life-altering. So I try to communicate all those things in my topics. And of course, it gets open for discussion, and a lot of questions come up that are quite interesting.
For sure. Let's talk about Jack for a few minutes. Jack was a student at West Springfield High School when I was the principal here, and I got to know him a little bit. But what an amazing young man he was, a bright kid in so many ways. And tell the folks at home, what was maybe a fond memory of Jack and something that really would resonate with the community about who he was, what he did. I know he was involved in the arts and in acting and singing and had so many talents.
He was a very talented young man, and from the get-go we saw that. And I believe that as a parent, what you try to do is you try to show everything to your children until they latch on to something, and then you support it. And so Jack, wanted to play the organ in church. He wanted to play the piano. He played the guitar. He played the electric guitar. He was always, I'll give you a great story. I'm watching the Red Sox. And in a Red Sox game, Jack would be listening, and he'd get up and he'd go into, we had a nice room, and I hear him playing the piano, and I'm wondering what's going on, and comes back out, he sits with me, and does it again. And all of a sudden I hear, dun-dun-dun-dun-dun, and he goes, Dad, he goes, dun-dun-dun-dun-dun. He was listening to the organ during the game, and everyone goes, charge.
Yeah.
And he took it and went over and figured it out on the piano to play it for his father. Great memory of Jack. Jack used to love to cook. He cooked for his family. He had a lot of friends. He was fiercely loyal to his friends and his family. His artistic, an art teacher here in high school, and her name is failing me right now, I apologize for that, got Jack going in the art direction. And his paintings were beautiful. And I used to always say to him, Jack, I can't believe what you've created in 19 years. I can't imagine what the next 19 years are going to be like. It was just so gifted. And thank goodness we have all these art pieces to this day. The other thing Jack did that was really neat, he was involved with a group of kids at the drama studio that wrote a play called Labels. And it was about bullying and how you get labeled, but it was a comedy. And Jack wrote a lot of the pieces, acted a lot of the parts, along with all these other kids. Very incredible play. I have the manuscript, and it was just really something that he was part of that. He loved animals. He volunteered at Dakin Animal Shelter, and he worked at the Boston Road Animal Hospital as a vet tech, helping animals. And so Jack was looking at a couple things for his career. He was Dean's List in college. He was either looking at maybe being a veterinarian surgeon or in the medical field, and he was debating that. And just a great young man.
He was, and that started early because if I remember correctly, that Labels production he started in middle school. If I remember correctly, I think he might have been as early as
and he was to think that he was thinking of these things.
Right.
And I think it'd be a great play for the schools to perform, because it really is pretty amazing. And to think that all those different characters were written, I mean, that's where he was.
For sure.
Yeah.
So there's great ways to keep Jack in our memory. And another way is the creation of the Jack Jonah Foundation. So you've recently established that. Tell me about your plans for the foundation. Are there some events and activities that are in the works? And I know you've got a lot of them.
I do. So this may sound kind of a little silly, but when you go through something like this, the tragedy, it affects you in many different ways. And for me, I have a hard time sleeping at night. And a couple individuals came to me and said, "Oh, Kirk, that's Jack coming to you and God coming to you. Embrace them, open up to them, and listen to them." So this foundation came up one night. And I talked to my family and my immediate family, my brother, sister-in-law, Everyone's like, great idea. So we formed the Jack Jonah Foundation. It's a approved 501c3 nonprofit. And the mission, one of the missions of the foundation is to either support financially or otherwise getting out into the community with children, young adults in the community, and talking about the opioid crisis, and getting out there and fostering conversation around it, whether it's with peers, whether it's with your parents, with teachers, coaches, but fostering conversation. Also, a second piece of this is providing funding to post-addiction centers. You know, the addicts that I've spoken to said, you know, Mr. Jonah, I come out of the rehab, I've been there for a period of time, and now I'm back into my environment. And I need a place to go. So these post-addiction facilities, very, very important to help these individuals continue on a life of staying away from the drugs. So we want to support that as well. So we have 2 events scheduled so far, and one of them is called Jack's Walk, May 4th, Ashley Reservoir, starts at 11 a.m. And this walk is going to be a walk of an educational walk. And the goal is to get as many individuals of the community there as possible to go on this walk, this journey. And it's going to be an educational journey as you walk around Ashley Reservoir. Jack's favorite place to walk. Him and I walked there many times with the rest of our family. Thought it'd be an appropriate place to call it Jack's Walk. And again, it's to foster communication between everyone that's on that walk. And we have some individuals, the district attorney and the sheriff, as long as our mayor here in West Springfield, have committed to be there. And I think it would be a very, very good community event to bring a community together to talk about this opioid crisis. The second thing that we're looking to do is August 31st is International Overdose Awareness Day. And last year I was asked to speak in Westfield on that day. But what we'd like to do is do something here in West Springfield. And the foundation's color is tie-dye, because that was Jack's thing. He made me tie-dye socks. This is a Garcia tie. He bought me Garcia ties that he bought me. And so it's going to be a tie-dye. And the opioid, we want that tie-dye to be associated with that. And what we'd like to do is sell tie-dye flags on the commons, very similar to what the Lions Club does for our veterans. We want to do a tie-dye, and you can buy a tie-dye flag in memory of somebody or someone who's struggling. And the goal is to have tie-dye flags throughout the commons. So when we have the International Overdose Awareness Day, people are going to see this. And again, it's going to foster conversation. I read a stat from the Center for Disease and Control that we lost 42,000 people in 2016 from opioid overdose. We have 28,000 and change in our town. That's an entire town gone. Mm-hmm. And that number was higher in 2017. It was 47,000, and I forgot the source that I want to cite that backs that up. But that's an entire 2 towns. So we want to keep bringing this out there, and again, hopefully foster that communication that will prevent losing people to this terrible thing.
Absolutely. So awareness is certainly education.
Yep.
And so for us, the most immediate event will be next Thursday,
Yes.
January 24th here
Mm-hmm.
at West Springfield High School. The Lions Club is providing a free dinner, free pasta dinner for the community. So if you show up, you can get fed and you hear a great message from Kirk Jonah. Mm-hmm. Following that, of course, we're looking forward to May 4th and then August 31st, and
Yes.
all events that the school department and the town are committed to supporting to make sure that we educate the community.
Yeah, we appreciate that.
Kirk, before I let you go, though, there's one question that I ask every guest who comes
Yep.
on the spotlight, and that is, who would you like to see featured? And the list can be endless, but pick somebody that you might like to see that the community would be interested to hear from.
You know, the first thing that comes to my mind, the West Springfield Boys and Girls Club. That club is the executive director there is Dan D'Angelo. And Dan and his team have done such incredible things at this club over the last few years. And I think that having Dan come on and talk about what they have provided and provide our community for our youth is a powerful message, and I think having a guy like him come on would be really great for the community.
Great. Well, Dan's a great supporter of the schools, and he's certainly also a CARE Coalition steering committee member. And I think we'll look forward to having Dan join me in the spotlight sometime soon.
Great.
So, thank you for joining us. It's been my pleasure to be here and having conversation with Kirk Jonah. As a reminder, January 24th here at West Springfield High School, free dinner starts at 5:30, followed by Kirk Jonah's message to the community about the opioid addiction and what we can all do to help save a life. Have a great day.